Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Trumbull Veterans First Responders meeting for November 18, 2021 to order at 7 p.m. Marissa, can you do a roll call of the members? All right, I'll do a roll call of the members. Mary Beth Thornton?
Here.
Here. Myself, Bruce Silverstone, I know you're here. Preston, I know you're here. Dan Sacco, you're here. Steve, you're here. Dawn Cantafio, did you join us? Okay. All right, let's, next item on the agenda, Pledge of Allegiance. Can we all do the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the October 14, 2021 meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Dan Sacco.
Dan, okay, second.
Second, Steve Lemoyne.
Steve, okay. Any discussion about those minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None, no abstentions. Okay. All right, tonight we have a presentation, a short presentation. It's gonna be made. Had the good fortune of being at a park commission meeting and then a town council meeting when they talked. I talked to a group of women, including Marianne LeMay, April Lang, and there's some others they're going to introduce. Talked about sustainable plannings for Katz's Pond. So when we finally get the dredging done and we start to work to landscape the site, we want it to look really, really good. So I've asked ladies this evening to do a short presentation on what plans they might have. And I know that for certain, Mary Ellen LeMay is very familiar with the site at Katz's Pond. So Mary Ellen, I'll let you introduce the others and you can do your presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ray. And thanks for inviting us. So I have thanks to April Lang and to Pam Roman, who are my colleagues on the Sustainable Trumbull Committee, and Pam is also on the Conservation Commission with me. So I'm the chair of the Trumbull Conservation Commission, and Ray and I have been talking about Katz's Pond and what we can do there in terms of restoring that landscape. So we just put together, I'm going to share my screen. We put together a couple of slides. Seems to be echoing. Maybe if everyone mutes themselves, it will stop. And it did. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to do a couple of slides on the state of the building right now, which these pictures were just taken last week by Pam Roman, and you can see the original building there with everything is pretty much overgrown along that edge. So we're very happy to be invited to work with the architect and with your committee to see if we can help to design a restoration for that site. Pam Roman, who's on our Conservation Commission, went and took some photos, and she identified what is there now all along that edge. And there's a lot of invasive shrubs and plants that will have to be removed, but there are a couple of native shrubs there, which are really nice. So what we're just going to do is kind of curate out the good stuff, leave the good ones there, and take out all the bad stuff, and then to begin to replant a little bit more. So the planting plan is called a riparian buffer zone. So riparian is like waterside, riverside, streamside, pond, lake. It's the area between the water and the land. And the benefits of having a healthy buffer zone there is that it slows the rain. and it actually filters what comes off of, or will come off of, the parking lot there at the new facility. So the more good things you have planted along the edge, it's almost better than Brita, because it cleans the water before it gets into Katz's Pond. And I know there's going to be some potential dredging and restoration there, and an opportunity for fishing. So you want to try and keep that water as clean as possible, but you also want to have something really nice along the edge. So we would like to just continue to work with you in proposing a nice buffer system along there that will be all native plants. Not only clean the water, it's good for the fish, but it'll bring in pollinators and birds. So this is red osier dogwood, which is already there, which is kind of nice. So we will just cut out all the invasives and leave that there. And you're able to cut these down into a really nice, neat hedge. So this is kind of an example of the plan that we would work with. This is a lakeside buffer. And we have this measured out in terms of how many we would need there. We can calculate the cost of this based on, what areas we want to plant. And these are some of the natives that will go along the side of the water, which will be really pretty over time. So this is just going to be an idea. We're very flexible in terms of what we would plant in there, but the beauty of this is that we can bring volunteers in to help to clean up the invasives. So I wanted to introduce my colleague on conservation, Pam Roman, and she works on the Sustainable Trumbull Committee as well. And she's just going to talk about, for the last two slides, about funding in order to do this and opportunities for labor. So I'll leave my screen shared here. And Pam, if you just want to jump on and read the slide. Okay.
Thank you, Mel, and thank you everyone for having us. I think this is a really worthwhile project, and I'm excited to potentially be able to help you. When we presented to town council, gosh, was that last week or the week before? One of the things that came up is now that Sustainable Trumbull is a certified town with sustainable CT. We just got silver certification. We were bronze last year, but as a certified town, we can apply for matching funds for programs that are under the sustainable list of endeavors. So I have more things on the next slide about plantings and things that they would consider suitable for matching funds. But the large and small of it is that if we put together a patronicity account and we raise funds for the border, the Riparian border, they will match the funds that we raise. The trick is that it's not speculative. You have to already know that this is moving forward. So it has to be a plan that is taking place. So if you get $5,000 in donations from 35 to 50 people, Sustainable CT will review that and will match the $5,000. So it's kind of nice, actually, to double your money or whatever your budget might be. I spoke to someone from Sustainable CT last week just about fundraising in general, because we've never done a matching fund project before. We haven't had occasion to do that. And what he told me was that typically 5,000 is the cap, but towards the beginning of the year, it might go a little higher. They tend to run out of money towards the end of the year. So it's actually, the timing could be pretty good for this. No more than 35% of the funding can come from one entity. So you really want to crowdfund this. You want to do as much campaigning around town in the news. You want to get people to maybe even name the gardens after someone, like you're doing now with the deck and with the bar, with the chairs. I think that's a really nice thing. People would love to name a garden or a section of the garden after someone that they love. So I think you can totally do that here. And then just in terms of the nuts and bolts, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, so to speak, but the window is 90 days, and Sustainable CT has a whole list of things that they would look to discuss with us prior to just going live with any fundraising. So they're very helpful. They even, for other matching fund campaigns that I've seen, they tweet about it, like they try to get people outside of the towns to just get on board and get enthusiastic about projects. So they're very helpful. So Mel, do you want to just go to the next slide? And this is just very, very quickly talks about what Sustainable CT would look for the project eligibility. So it's a whole laundry list of things that we can apply for matching grant funds for. And this is just the one I put on the slide, is just the land and natural resource protection bullets. So you can see that what we're talking about, what Mel has put together, what we're talking about doing there with native plantings, riparian borders, it really does fit under those eligibility bullets. So it's actually going to be a fun project to work on and very exciting. And I hope that we can make it happen, help you make it happen.
Great. Thank you, Pam.
Sure.
That's great. So I'll stop sharing, and yeah, so that's all. We wanted to kind of keep it short tonight, but we look forward to, I mean, the easy part is designing the plants and accessing them, but raising the funds will be an interesting project. Make this really a community effort. So we look
And
forward to
maybe
it.
even, you know, we did a pollinator pathway event at Wakeman's, which is the Trumbull Garden Center up at the 25-111 intersection there. You get somebody like that involved too. I think it could be a really exciting project for the town.
Well, you know, we talked, first of all, thank you both very much for taking the time to present tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm glad I went to that town council meeting. I actually learned something. It was really good. But, you know, as we've all on the committee spoke about, this is a veteran center, first responders, but it's also a community center. And so the more people in the community get involved in whatever aspect they feel comfortable doing, you know, it's really very heartening, I think, to all of us to have you guys involved. The pond has, there are plans in the works to dredge that pond. They have to fix the spillway and some other things. So it's going to be a little while, but I wanted to get you looking at it to see what we might do. So I'm going to see if anybody else on the committee has any questions or comments. Anybody would like to speak?
So I have a thought, actually. If we can, so I think one of the ladies, I don't know if it was Pam or
Mary Ellen.
Mary Ellen, thank you. One of you said that one entity cannot contribute more than, was it 35%?
Right. And as far as Sustainable CT is concerned, so let's just say your budget is 15,000 and you get 35% of that from, or 35% of half of that from one entity, then they're probably going to look at that a little differently in terms of how much they would give you to match.
Yeah, so I think that we're having pretty good success right now with people stepping forward and donating funds from a naming perspective. We could probably break this into three groups of 1,500 and then find the other 500 someplace and ask people to step forward, donate 15. Now I know it takes away from the $5, $10, $25, but it would make it easier. And at some point, we as a group will be going out for those $5 and $25 and $50. And so we don't want to be competing, but I don't know if any other committee members or Dan, you've been working on this, the naming things. What do you think if we had 3 people to step forward with 1,500, they get to put their name on the gardens and we'll be close to good to go.
Yeah, well, based upon those photos and how nice they made it look, I think it would sell easily. The question
I think
is,
it'd be great.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that until after the building was taken down and gone back up, right? So it's
Right.
down the road. So
Right.
it's down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
But we could put the naming opportunities up now,
Yeah.
like everything else. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you ladies think of that? What is the committee and what do you ladies think of that?
Can I ask a question that has to do with the 35%? And really, have we, well, first, does the 35% have to do with the amount being raised, or does it have to do with the total budget of the project, that part of the project? And two, have we explored, or have I missed setting a budget on what this would be costing?
I don't know what your budget is for the garden or the riparian repair.
Okay, so in other words, if the budget, let's say it was 20,000, would the 35% be based on the 20,000, or 35% be based on whether it's 5,000 or 7,500? It would be based on the 5,000, the matching part of it.
I think that's a very good question, and I think once we get into the new year, and or once we get to the point where we're close to planning this with you, we can go to Sustainable CT and ask that question. As I mentioned, he said that at the beginning of the year, there might be more funds than towards the end of the year. So then I think it just really depends on a project by project basis.
Okay,
So if the max is 7,500, say, let's just say it's, or 10,000, I would think that the 35% is of the 5,000. Half of 10.
and just as a practical point, if we're having that dredged and there are invasive species that should be removed, should we try to incorporate them dredging the invasive species and trying to leave the native ones there? Can we do that?
That would be great help. Yeah, because the dredging is, it's a pretty messy process, and it's has a big impact. So yeah, if we can use that and their tools to pull out all the invasives there, that would be great. That would save some labor. And I don't think it would be a very expensive project for planting, because we're just going to do the plan for free. I can get the plants at a wholesale price and the trees and shrubs, and then we'll do volunteers to put it in. So I really don't see it as a very big expense, and it really could be beautiful. Similar to if you went to Old Mine Park, we planted a buffer along Old Mine Park. Oh gosh, it's got to be 6-7 years ago now, and it's beautiful because it's it holds the side. It's a lot of flowers and beautiful flowering shrubs, and there's no geese. When you put buffers like this, the geese do not come through it, and so it reduces the goose population. Whereas if you looked at the other side of Old Mine Park, where it's grass to the edge, that's where the geese go. So that's another benefit to this, I think, for Katz's Pond. Keep the geese out.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Just a point, Dan Martin, the dredging at Katz's Pond is a town project. It has no relationship to this Veterans Center building situation here, just for the
But we
record.
know that, yes.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Well, then to make the assumption that we're going to dredge the pond, I just want to make sure that you realize it's a town project and not the Veterans Center, part of the Veterans Center.
I think that's for me to know, because I was just writing down if that could be another campaign, a separate campaign, but knowing that it's a town, that the town's doing that is helpful.
Yeah, the town is doing a study on it, and they're responsible for the pond. Yeah.
I think just what Mel mentioned about this Old Mine Park, if you go there, there's a beautiful kiosk that talks about the riparian border. And I think that there's an opportunity for education with that at Katz's Pond as well, for anyone who might come up to go fishing or just visit it. It's a beautiful spot, visible, as you know, from Whitney. And you could make it a real nice project for the town.
Yep, that's our plan. Thank you very much. We appreciate your coming on board. Thank you.
You got it. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, item 5, an update on demolition environmental testing update. George Wiles is on another meeting. I've got the information I can update everybody on. If you have any questions, I think Zoraida may be on the call from George's office, but basically we did the site testing was done, and there was no contamination of the site. Well, we didn't realize that the company that did the site testing didn't do the building. So we had to retain a firm to go in and do the building. In order to get the permits that they needed from the state of Connecticut, that site, the site and the building had to be, the testing had to be submitted. When they did that, it was determined that there was no lead contamination on the site, but there was asbestos, and the asbestos had to be removed. I think I forwarded everybody, I know I forwarded everybody this afternoon, an explanation by George Wiles and a bill from Conti Construction to do the additional work it was take to meet the state's requirement to get the permitting. So we had to remove the asbestos, and as a result, there was an added charge of $3,246. One other little glitch that I just came to my attention today was that apparently in order to do the demolition, we also have to have the meter of the electric disconnected by UI. UI can't seem to find the account, and therefore it's put a bit of a snag into the demolition. We're in the process of looking for an old bill or something to identify who was responsible for the power and who was where the metering is, and so we're working on that. But does anybody have any questions about the added expense regarding the asbestos remediation?
Is that money covered in it from our budget, from the dollars
Yeah.
that are available? Yeah.
Yes, it would be.
That's great.
It would be
Great.
Yeah, and it still doesn't put you over the 50,000 for CHRO. So Conti is at 41.9. We'll add 3,000 X amount of dollars. So we'll still be under the threshold that we need to be.
Great.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about the report and where we are? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the expenditure of $3,246 for the added work, the asbestos removal by Conti builders and general contractors?
All right, I'll make a motion. Dan, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
All right.
We have a
Second.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is an update, discussion regarding the messaging on our website. Again, we have Dan, Bruce. I don't know whether Rena's on. I think she may be at a Board of Finance meeting too. I'm not sure. But certainly Dan and Bruce can update us on where we are with the website and the messaging. Gentlemen?
Okay. Bruce, you want me to start, right?
That'd be great, Dan.
Okay, so listen, the first question that we have to ask ourselves is from an integrity standpoint is what do we want to put on that website? As we're asking people to make donations, to let them know that we're still in the process of raising funds and there's no time frame for this to be built. Right now, we just have up for donations. Are we comfortable with that? Or do we need to have a message up there to let them know that there's a time frame involved in this and that these funds will be held until then? And do we want an additional message that goes beyond that, that says for any reason something happens, they will get their money back? How do we want to handle that from an integrity standpoint? My gut is we would want a message up there to let people know what the status was and provide an update, have an update on there. And the first update would be that the old building is going to be demolished as step one. You'll see that happen over the next 2 months. So it looks like we're moving forward and gets us off the hook from having at least identifying to people what's happening. So my idea would be we should put a message up there along those lines. I throw that out for anybody to have discussion on your thoughts on that one.
I think I would, I'll add to the discussion a little bit. I think that that's probably a great idea. How we handle that, like when I'm thinking about it, I almost think like maybe it should be, once we figure out the confirmation part of it, there were some issues with like the transition between submitting the form, going to PayPal, and then the confirmation or thank you message that you receive after. There's some writing that needs to be done, I think, to perfect sort of the submission page as far as the thank you message that people receive. But to take that into like a little bit of a thought, maybe the message for Like what happens with the donations if it doesn't go through, and how does that money get returned? Maybe it's a matter of like a fine print that goes into the bottom of the confirmation message, that when somebody submits the form, along with a thank you and a fine print after they receive that like submission form, that it says whatever the conditions of the donation are or something. Or maybe somewhere there's a page about the conditions upon like the donation and the campaign and everything that's involved with it.
Okay, so that's a question that this group should discuss, because do we want it in fine print, or do we want people to know upfront what's actually happening and where it's coming from? We're asking people to give a donation. It seems to me they should know what the status is. And
I would agree. I would agree, absolutely. You and Bruce and I have had this discussion offline. I think there should be a disclosure right from the beginning that we are at whatever stage we are at when they make the donation. And that, this is a process that's going to possibly take some time, and that in the unlikely event that we don't get the funding, their money will be refunded.
right,
So I would agree. That would be my vote as well.
okay.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
I have another question just from like the standpoint of like the website and like kind of the campaign in general. Is there an idea as far as like the deadline for the donations, like expected day that you would kind of come to close, so people know, okay, I have to not hurry, but I have to donate before this point in order to make the project progress? Is there like a deadline or a date in anyone's mind?
Well, that's hard to do without a date knowing when the building is being built. So I think it'll be an ongoing process. I don't feel like we put a date there now.
And I think our expectation is that folks who are going to order plaques will send their funds in at the time they order them. And the folks that have naming, who've stepped up for naming, I think we're deferring that until we actually move forward with the building. And then everybody has said that they will come forward with the funds that they owe at that time. So I think we've kind of addressed that in a way that I think is feasible for everybody, unless anybody on the committee has another thought.
Yeah. Listen, does everybody in the committee agree with that? Because I mean, if somebody wanted to pay, we would certainly take the money now and tell them to be in an account saved. But we wouldn't force the naming right money, I don't think.
Well, let me run through the committee members. Preston, do you have any comments about this?
You're on mute. You're on mute.
I hope you all heard what I had to say. It was brilliant. I agree with what everybody's been saying here.
Okay, good. Steve?
I'm in agreement. Everything sounds good to me.
Okay. Mary Beth?
Well, there's no complaints, so she's.
Yes, Mary Beth is in agreement, yes.
Okay. All right, Janet and Bruce, it seems like we have a consensus on what we want to message here, and we'll work out the details on what it's going to look like. And Zoraida can help us get it onto the site.
So Ray, on to the next issue on that, okay? Can we keep going here?
Good, Keith, you're on a roll. Go ahead.
So the next question is, what is the process that we have put in place to protect the integrity of the system and what we're offering? And I don't know the answer right now, because as an example, Zoraida, we got that note from that person who gave us, from the veterans, gave us money to put the podium.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I'm selling the naming rights, and I didn't know.
Dan, excuse
Yeah.
me, Dan, you might review that, because I'm not certain everyone is aware of what happened.
Okay, so what happened was I was at the last two meetings for the veterans groups, I was pushing naming rights to try to get people to do things. One of the veterans, their daughter bought the naming rights to the podium for her. I didn't know she actually made a payment, and she did that until she sent me a note saying, why is it still on the website as being available when I sent the money in? I didn't know she sent the money, and she sent me a copy of the PayPal. So we need a process to understand who is going to control this, who gets notices from PayPal that said somebody bought these naming rights, and when the process goes in and they buy the naming rights, that somebody tells, I guess, Zoraida, and she takes it off the site and marks it as sold. It's still on the site as available. Well, it's been
I
sold
fixed it
now.
actually just now, like tonight, this evening. I fixed it before the meeting started, but I
Okay.
think that that's a good point. I think as far as there needs to be kind of like a chain of command, and it's like directly who is the person that controls the PayPal, who is the person that controls like receiving those funds, and how do they get in contact with you or with me to let me know that that needs to be updated as it goes.
Right,
And
so we need a process. We need a process that says who gets those notices. Now, Sujata has said that there are other people who have made some payments. I have no idea what those payments are for, so I'm not sure who owns that process, who's getting those notices and whose donations are coming. And if they're tying them back to the plaques, is somebody tying every donation back to a plaque that a person made? I don't know the answer to that question because I have no idea. There has to be a process put in place now or at the front so we can identify what's already occurred and make the last process be to make sure we get the Zoraida. She goes up on the site and marks those naming rights sold or things that happen. Because right now there's no control. We don't know where it's going. We're going to end up selling something twice or three times, and we're going to look really, really bad during this process. So I don't know the answer, right? Sujata, I guess Sujata has to be involved in this and figure it out. I don't know how it works now.
So I believe there has to be a meeting conversation. It has to involve Sujata, who's the one that set up the PayPal, Zoraida, Dan, and yourself, and possibly, probably Dan, maybe possibly Dan Martin or Maria Pires, who's our Director of Finance. But I will arrange to get you guys together so you can have a conversation to sort this out.
Yeah, so somebody has to own that process. I mean,
Yeah, I'll hear you. Great.
Just as an aside, the funds that are being raised on the side, they are not the property of the town of Trumbull. My understanding, it's being raised by the Veterans Association or Veterans of Foreign War. Is that true, or are we doing it as a committee?
No, there's a separate, there is a separate account just for this project. It's not going to the VFW or American Legion.
Okay, so it is the town of Trumbull under their jurisdiction.
So
But to-
Preston, you've raised another interesting issue, and that is that Dan and I've been talking about this, accountability for the funds that come in. So they're going into an account, I think, maybe on a quarterly basis, somebody needs to be looking at this and ensuring that all the money that came in actually went into an account. And somebody needs to do kind of a reconciliation. So I guess that needs to be somebody from the town, I'm going to imagine. But somehow we need to track that in a way that makes sense so that 18 months from now, we're not missing $7,000 or $15,000.
From the town standpoint, the account is not part of the town. It's a checking account that's been set up with specifically for the Veterans Building Committee. And any monies that get deposited or being deposited are given to us to deposit, but somebody needs to track it from the committee standpoint. All we're doing is caretaking and making, we have because of our relationship with the bank.
Right, that's exactly the point. So Ray, that meeting is vital to say who's going to track that.
Exactly. So I think we'll get that, I'll get that meeting together as soon as I possibly can with Sujata, who set up the account, and I'll set the meeting up with the principals. We'll all be involved, and we'll know the next meeting who's in charge of what, what the
And
change.
who gets copies of the PayPal when it gets paid? I don't know the answer to that. Zoraida, do you get that? You get copies of PayPal when it goes through?
no,
No.
I
So I
don't.
don't-
I think that Rena and Sujata are the ones that are in control of that. I have no control over the PayPal, anything that goes beyond outside of the
Yeah.
website.
Okay.
Control.
Ray, can you get me involved in that meeting, please? Ray?
What?
Would you please involve me in that meeting?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and the third thing, the other one is to make sure that every donation that's made is tied back. If they're doing it beyond just a donation, if it's more than a donation, if it's tied back to a plaque, or it's tied back to a naming right, that we understand what happened there. Because it has to be matched up. I don't think, you're right, I don't think it comes through the system. It tells us that, right? The form comes
The
in
way that
PayPal goes.
the
Yeah,
submission form works is when that form is completed and all the boxes that are required are filled out, based on the page that you've submitted it on, Wix, the website, will send a notification to the account, like the email account that's associated with the Wix account, which I believe at this point, most people probably have access to. Rena, her team, Jada, and whoever controls the PayPal, they have access to this email account. A notification goes to that email account saying somebody's form for this, this and that, this is their name, this is their address, this is their phone number. And then after that form gets submitted and PayPal opens, their name, their card number, or whatever their account information is however they made the payment, that is then sent to whoever is controlling that account. Now, if that goes back to the same email address, I don't know. I don't know where those payment notifications go or who's seeing that or who's in control of that. But the thing that they would look at to tie them together would be the name, the address, the phone number, the point of contact for that donation. And then they would just tie the two together as they come in.
Yeah, so somebody's got to physically tie those two together, because it doesn't come in together to say, here's a donation to buy the naming rights of this. Somebody
Yes.
has to go back and tie it together, and you're running a risk there that if you don't have somebody watching over it really close, you're not going to tie it together, and you're going to have a big miss, and you're going to have a problem.
All right,
Yeah.
Dan, we'll get on that. I'll get on that, if not tomorrow, by the beginning of next week. And then I'll set a meeting up, because we have a short week next week, set a meeting up for the following week. So we get all the stakeholders in there at the same time, so we all know what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's great. And that's great to have Preston on board with that.
Yeah, Preston be good to have. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Ray, it's Jim.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, just a couple quick questions about the account. Is all the money in a PayPal account, or is it tied to a bank account? Anyone know?
Well,
Dan, no?
yeah,
Well,
the
right,
way it works. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jim, right now, we have the town has the bank account up because we had to set it up. We don't get, from what I understand, we don't get notification from PayPal or any deposits from PayPal until somebody pushes a button that releases the funds to the account.
All right, so they're still in the PayPal account.
It's still in the PayPal account until Shajada or Rena, whoever's got access to it, does something that releases the funds to come to us.
That was my second question: is who's got access to to that account?
Right. Because
Who has access?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maria has access, and Anthony Musto, and
Okay.
Ray Baldwin as well has signature access.
Okay, that answers my questions. Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna, just so I make sure I cover everybody, I'm gonna arrange this meeting with Preston, Sujata, Rena, Zoraida, Dan Martin, and Dan Sacco. Anybody else need to be on that, or does that cover everybody?
Well, put Maria in there too, please, Ray.
Maria?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Bruce, you bailing out?
I didn't know I needed to volunteer.
Oh, you know what? Glad you brought it up. I put Bruce's name in there too. First of all, it's gonna be difficult. There's 8 of you. It's gonna be difficult to get 8 people together on one meeting. Although I think you probably could do it via a Zoom.
Yeah,
But
it could be Zoom.
we're gonna have to, it's gonna have to be set up somehow so that all these questions you have get answered. Better to do it now than, get really into the weeds and have a problem. So I'm glad you raised it.
Yep.
Any other discussion about the site?
No.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda, I've asked Dan Martin to give us a brief financial report on our status. Dan?
All right, I'll pop up a display here and you can see what's going on. Can you see my screen? Yes, you
Yes.
can.
I can see it.
Can you see this?
Yes.
All right, so what this is this is a recap of what the The budget is for the bond part of the project with Wiles activity to date and against the 200,000 that the town put up for the bonding. And we have a balance of 3,732 left in this account right now, based upon the activities here.
Hold on, just a sec. I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing a list of names, but I'm not seeing, does anybody else see the same thing I'm
Yeah,
seeing?
you have your email up, Dan.
An email? Okay,
Your
sorry,
email,
sorry.
you have,
Wrong click. How's that?
All right, that's better.
Much better.
How's that? So as I was saying, this is what the bond looks like right now. With 3,732 left available in the bond, which was the initial design and whatnot there.
Okay,
Going forward, we now get into the grant where we have Conti in here with his current purchase order for the demolition. And right now, because of that, and you just approved the change order, so this number will change by another $3,200, whatever it is. So that'll leave about $84,000 left available in the bond that we have with the state, the steep grant.
okay,
All right.
yep,
And then just a quick recap. This is what we know right now of the bank account. We had $3,000 worth of checks that went to the first selectman's office right off the bat.
right,
And we've made these payments against that, the post office box and the stuff related to the website. This is the balance as of October 31st per the bank statement.
okay,
And that's all we have for right now in that account. So nothing's come in that we know of for deposits or anything from PayPal at this point.
So Dan,
Okay.
is that amount reconciled? We know that nothing's come in from PayPal?
That is correct. That is a reconciled account. I thought I had scanned the bank statement to show you the actual bank statement, but
No,
Things have come from PayPal. I saw the.
it hasn't been released to us yet. It hasn't been released
Okay.
to the bank account. That's the whole
Right,
thing.
gotcha.
It's sitting
Right,
out
right,
on
right.
PayPal.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in the other place, right?
okay. Does anybody have any questions of Dan?
Hey, Ray, just one thing, so just from the record, so you all know that if for some reason we have to return the funds, we're gonna collect, like Bruce said, we're gonna collect $125. I think we're gonna sell a ton of plaques. If at some point we have to return those funds, there's a fee that goes with it, PayPal in and PayPal out. And so we have to realize that might happen.
Okay,
So Dan and I talked about this a little bit, and we actually, just to review for everyone, because someone may have a feeling about, on the committee may have another feeling about this. At first, we weren't going to take funds, but then we thought if people signed up for plaques and we had to chase them for the money 2 years from now, that would be an inordinate task, we thought. So we thought we would collect the funds at this point, and then, you know, they would get a thank you saying there would be updates along the way, as we discussed earlier. But at the same time, to Dan's point, if we have to refund money, it's I don't remember, it's like a 2 or 2.5%.
Yeah, so I
Two.
think 2.5.
It's a 2.5? It's a 2.5% fee if we have to return funds. So, you know, we need to keep that in mind. So everybody now knows everything. And if you have another feeling or another way to go, this would be the time to bring it up. Otherwise, we'll continue on the path that we just discussed.
And Bruce, it goes both ways. There's a cost coming in. If you have to reimburse back to that credit card, so the cost going back. There's no choice to bring it to your bank. There's a cost if you reimburse it through PayPal back.
I think we all agreed in the beginning that this was the best way for us to go. And
As long as
no,
we're aware and maintain some money, so we know if in case of. there's a-
yeah, we hold back some money in the event that we have to pay a fee to reimburse it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments about that? Okay, there's nothing to vote on, but Dan, thank you for the update, and maybe periodically, maybe we're gonna have you do a report at every meeting, if you don't mind, just so we keep track of where we are in the process.
Not an issue, not a problem.
Thank you, Dan, appreciate it.
But I watch it every time a bill goes through, I make a change.
Okay, appreciate that. Next item on the agenda, grant bonding and fundraising update. Nothing much to report except that Rena and I will be meeting with the People's Bank Foundation next Tuesday to talk to them about some opportunities. And then Rena and I are going to meet afterwards to identify corporations that we want to go after and what our messaging is going to be. And I will, before we go out and do that, I'm going to bring it back to the committee so you know exactly where we're headed and who we're looking to target. So that'll be coming in the next meeting. I neglected to put on the agenda public comment. So at this stage, it says other committee business. Is there anybody from the public that's out there that would like to be heard? Okay. Is there any more comment or questions from the committee members?
Hey, Ray, I just have one question, Dan. What's the
course.
time, what's the time frame now for Conti to take the building down?
Well, we got, the one thing we have to do is get the sign off from UI and then the building will be taken down.
Okay,
As soon as we get the sign off from UI, which as I said earlier, is something that just came up. Unfortunately, I think Ernie Fordo talked to George Arison, who said the records from the Trumbull Veterans Association, which was paying those bills, all those records are still inside the building. So I'm going to ask Ernie and maybe George Arison to go in there to see if they can retrieve a statement of some kind, just so we can, get this done.
I'll give Tom a call tomorrow to open up the building for me, and I'll see if I can get in there and see if there's anything in there.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ernie. Is there anybody from the public, Bill, that's waiting to be heard?
So if there's anybody from the public who would like to speak, press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen or press *9 if you're on the phone.
Nobody? Okay, I will close public comment. All right, so the homework assignment is for me to put together a meeting with the folks we identified before, as many of you can, to see how we're going to coordinate the chain of from the donor right through the financing process and how it gets into our account and how it's accounted for. And I'll get that done within the next, like I said, next week to 10 days. Anybody else have anything on the committee they'd like to share or say?
Yeah, Ray?
Yes, Jim.
Yeah, Jim. Yeah, in terms of the demolition though, has all the contaminated material been removed?
Yes, we mentioned that earlier on. I don't know if you
Yeah.
heard.
I
The
heard
only-
something about it. I wasn't sure it was 100% finished though.
The site was clean. The building, for whatever reason, hadn't been tested. It got tested. They found that there was some asbestos in there.
Yeah.
Asbestos is being removed. So we now have a clean demolition site.
It is being, or it was removed?
It is removed.
Yeah, okay. All right.
All right, if I had no other business, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, before I close out, happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
same
you.
thing.
You too, everyone.
Have a good one. Thank
Bye
you.
Bye now.